Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first edition of Hellcare, a podcast about interesting people and their health. My name is Shaun Patrick Flynn. I'm a registered nurse and comedian. And I want to welcome today my friend, Ken Pagliaro, professional photographer, artist, and storyteller. Ken, it's so good to see you, man.
What's up, Shaun?
I'm doing well, man.
Good.
How have you been?
Good. Hanging in there. Doing well enough.
Yeah. Didn't die from COVID, I see.
Didn't die from COVID. I'm still here.
Nice. Me too, unfortunately. So, Ken, I brought you on today because I wanted to talk about you.
Right.
I've always found you very fascinating. You're like, but I think you're really fascinating, Ken. You came out to California, grew up in New Jersey, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then you came out here and you found a camera and you found your life's passion. So I want to talk about that.
Okay.
Tell me, Ken, how did this all come to be? I mean, I'm looking at your sheet here. I'm looking at your website, and you have worked with some big people.
I've been lucky. Yeah.
You've worked with Chevrolet, Patagonia, Target, Coors, Vans, off the wall, baby. And then you've also worked with the Oscars and stuff like that. So really interesting, Ken. And I find it fascinating. You work for yourself, and you get to do what you love. And I think not a lot of people get to do that. So I want to know how you got started.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very lucky, very grateful for where I'm at, where I've come from. And I actually picked up photography as a hobby back in New Jersey, and I took a few classes, and it stuck. Once I learned the basics of the camera,
Mm-hmm.
I really was intrigued by the control that I had over producing an image, and so that led me to take classes, and then when it turned out that I was going to be moving to California, that wasn't my intention to move to California, but it came up, and the opportunity came up, and so when I moved out here, I had the thought that, and I was in construction back east, so carpenter. I used to do a bit of everything: electrical, plumbing, framing, all that stuff, and I always had a camera with me on those jobs, so I could document the progression of it. So when I moved out here, I said, this is the land of entertainment. I'm going to pursue photography full time if I can.
Mm-hmm.
And so I enrolled in Art Center in Pasadena, and I loved it. I mean, I just felt so at home at that school, and the things that I learned there were just, I still use them to this day, and the perspective that I got from my instructors and everyone else around me, basically, it was fantastic. And then, I live in the South Bay of Los Angeles, so most of my neighbors are either in the financial industry or the entertainment industry. So I'm kind of rubbing elbows with, producers, directors, and I'm a pretty social guy, and I like to talk to a lot of people. So I meet people on the street and tell them I'm a photographer. And so I feel like, location, hard work, luck, all those things that kind of go into success, they kind of fell into place for me. So yeah, that's basically it.
So when you started out, were you working in dark rooms and stuff like that? Were you learning it literally from the ground up? Because now I feel like people are totally skipping that part of photography, and then they're just learning on a DSLR camera. Did you start in a dark room?
Oh yeah, with digital photography now, you can just pick it up and go, basically. But yes, I started in the dark room, and I learned how to, process my film. And then when I actually moved out here, the first job that I did get was in a photo lab.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
was it a drive-through photo lab?
It was not. It was a small little lab, but we were right down the street from Paramount Studios. Mm-hmm. And so on the street, it's Larchmont Boulevard out here. And there was a lot of celebrity traffic, up and down the street and in and out of the lab as well. And, I'm a kid from New Jersey, and, I'd see Harrison Ford, strolling by, or Jamie Lee Curtis, actually came into the lab, and, multiple celebrities came in, and what it did for me really was to recognize, because I'm a big-eyed, this kid from New Jersey, realize that these people are just regular people doing their job. So I thought to myself, well, this life is accessible. I can do whatever I want if I set my mind to it, And so I started asking, some of those people, hey, could I photograph you for my portfolio? I want to become a professional photographer. And some of them actually said yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Who said yes?
Not the A-listers.
No, I want to hear all about the D's.
But there's an actor. His name's James Remar. I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah.
But he played the convict in what's the movie with Eddie Murphy? Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he was also in an older movie that I loved called The Warriors.
Yes.
The Warriors come out to play.
Yeah, it's about the gang from Brooklyn.
Yeah, exactly. He was in that. And I was always like, he always had this deep barreling voice and like he had a presence, So he made an impression on me. And then when I saw him a bunch on the boulevard, outside my work. And he came in a few times and I asked him and he's like, oh, no, I don't think so, and I kind of hounded him a bit. And he did.
Nice.
So we went down the street. I found a wall, a space that had good lighting, and oh God, I was so young back then. But I did it, and I was happy with the photos. He was happy with the photos, and then I did. God, what was the Golden, California? Huell Hauser.
Okay.
Do you remember Huell Hauser? Mm-hmm. Oh, great guy, great character. Another great. He had a show that he would feature all these like kind of hidden gems of California and not so hidden gems, and he was so excited about sharing this with the world. And he would come in and drop off citrus in the lab. He would bring grapefruits, and you have to look him up. He has I don't want to do the impression, but he had a very distinct way of speaking and a level of excitement. And he would pop his head in and say, "Hi, y'all," and bring in his oranges and his grapefruits, and he would drop them off and leave. And he would kind of go down the boulevard doing the same for to all the other places. So I asked him, and he let me. And unfortunately, he died a few years back, but he was one. And there's a couple other actors. I actually went to their house. They said, "Yeah, you can come," and they live not too far away. And I went and I photographed. There was one gentleman. He was on a soap opera. I recognized him. I don't remember his name. I don't recall his name, but I was like, "Oh man, I remember seeing you on my TV."
Nobody remembers the name of a soap opera actor. Nobody.
I wish I did. Sorry about that. But and then there's Dietrich Bader.
Okay.
Do you know him?
It sounds familiar, but
Dietrich, another great guy, great family. The family used to come in, and I developed some minor relationships with some of the folks, and it was really nice people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that time. It was this very, very small lab. The street was great. There was little cafes, and that made an impression on me that time in my life. Just when I got here, because I was ready to go back. I was ready to go back to New Jersey after.
I hated it here my first 6 months. I wanted to leave so bad. I wanted to go back to New York, but
different.
It does grow on you, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And I live at the beach, and I feel like living at the beach in LA is the best place for me. In the South Bay bubble. Mm-hmm. But I'd love it. I get to surf, most mornings if I can, if the surf's good.
Yeah.
But it's great.
So you came out here. You went to a program at in Pasadena.
Yes.
And you picked up. You had the job at the photo booth, the photo shop, and so you went just from there. Then boom, you started picking up clients, and it just started building from there.
I did. And what happened was the photo lab closed. So that was in the whole transition. When I started there, it was film. Yeah. So we were developing film, and we had a a shelf, with the freezer full of film
Yeah.
when I started working there. And by the time I left, we had this little section of film, and that was it. And my boss decided he didn't want to, be in this business anymore. So he closed it down. And so I was kind of forced to go out on my own. I said, okay, well, I guess this is it. I'm going to hang my shingle, and I am a professional photographer now,
Yeah.
And so, I started, pitching myself that way and collecting money for it. And some of the photos that I don't delete anything, by the way. Like I have all of my photos that I've taken from back then. And,
I've burned some of my stand-up sets. Literally. When I moved out here, I had VHS tapes and I literally burned them.
I wish I would have, some of them I look at them and I'm like, man, I cannot believe somebody paid me for these photos.
I really suckered this person.
But that's what happens. You grow, you learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who would you say, you have worked, like I said, with a lot of interesting corporate clients. So tell me about some of your corporate clients and, where has that taken you?
That has opened the door for me. After you get your first one, someone trusts you enough to bring you on to a set, where it's like a beehive and there's a lot of money at stake.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to get the job done, and know what you're doing. There's a lot to navigate. And I didn't know shit, I didn't know anything. I was so scared the first time I walked up onto a set and I introduced myself to the director, the DP, and because I started shooting on live action sets. They would combine the shoots. So they'd shoot a live action commercial and then I would have to capture stills of the products or whatever that they were shooting. Once I got my first one and I proved myself to a certain point, I guess, and then it led to another and another, and I got to do some really amazing things because of it, and the whole time you're kind of pinching yourself, like, man, I can't believe I'm doing this, coming, like you said, coming from New Jersey and, being a carpenter and, the way we think of ourselves in our head, but it was pretty amazing.
So who would you say what was the most interesting job? What was the most interesting corporate job you've had?
Interesting corporate. When you say corporate, do you like
I see all the corporate companies I mentioned in the beginning, like the Chevrolet, Patagonia.
Yes. Patagonia was great. I shot a race in Hawaii. It's a 100-mile outrigger canoe race. And the team that I was photographing was sponsored by Patagonia, and they saw my photos afterwards, and so they actually purchased them after the fact.
Oh wow! Yeah,
which is cool. That that pumped me up, made me feel good. But I'd say probably the best job that I've done, that I was so excited and it kind of just came up out of nowhere, and I had to jump on a plane and get up there. And so a good friend of mine, Steve Fredericks, is a line producer, and they needed a still photographer up in Alaska for a Coors Light job. And so he called me on a Friday morning, and he said, "Hey, can you get up to Alaska by this evening?"
No problem.
Exactly.
No problem.
Those are my exact words. And then he filled me in on what the job was. He said it's for Coors Light, and they had been running some commercials already that they had already shot. And he explained that to me, and I knew what he was talking about. And then I hung up with him, and then I had to scramble. I had to get all my winter gear and, all these things. And he sent me, all the protocols and, where to be and all the logistics. And it was complete mayhem. But I got up there and went to the hotel, found Steve. He loaded a bunch of more information on me. And the next morning we got up and, I shot out on the glacier in
No shit.
in Alaska We didn't use vehicles. We used helicopters. They had helicopters, 3 on rotation for the whole crew that they would just they would have a base camp. Someone would locate they had location scouts.
Mhm.
They'd find the location, these beautiful locations, ice caves in these valleys of just,
Wow.
full of nature made ice sculptures. It was amazing. That was probably one of the most adventurous
Mhm.
shoots that I've ever done. But that's what I love the most, the adventure. I love getting out there
Yeah.
and taking the risks myself, just being in it,
Yeah.
in the ocean, all that stuff really appeals to me.
Yeah.
It's getting harder to hold on to though with my age.
There's a lot that gets hard to hold on to with age.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was the shittiest job you had?
Oh God, the shittiest job. Oh man, I don't know. There's quite a few that I'm not so inspired about, but I feel like they always serve a purpose,
Right.
even if it's shitty, for lack of a better term. I try to use it to grow from it. Of course I have my fit or whatever it is, and in my head and I'm angry and I'm like, my blood pressure's up but I always try to go back and check myself on it, and see like, okay, like this is your job. You're going to have these, how do you do it better? How do you next time, how do you draw a line, or create a boundary with the client and say, hey, typically I wouldn't do something like this or, something along those lines. So everything's a learning experience. So I really couldn't pick out one job because there's so
You've
many.
had so many shitty jobs. Hey, welcome to my life. Welcome to my life.
No, it's all good. Even those shitty jobs I'm still pinch myself.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Has anyone asked you to shoot them naked?
Yes, they have. It's never panned out, but
It's never panned out.
Yeah, but
I never went through with it.
I've had inquiries, but
You've had inquiries.
It's never. Never
Love your
happened.
photography. How much to shoot my titties?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
So,
cool.
Yeah, it's great. And I'm a shutterbug. I like to shoot everything. I like to lighting's not my forte, but of course lighting is everything in photography.
Mhm.
So, with natural lighting, I know good light when I see it.
Mhm.
When it comes to studio lighting, again, I know it when I see it, but I couldn't go in and just set up. I would set up like a basics setup and tinker. That's what I like to call it. I just kind of tinker with the lights and move things around until I get it to the way I like it,
Cool.
And I love that stuff. That's very hands-on. It reminds me of working with the hammer and the nails back in the day.
I also read that you worked with the Coast Guard
Yes.
in the air and on the water. Tell me about that.
That was exciting. That was really exciting. Well, I saw in the paper that the Coast Guard was going to be doing a mock rescue out in front of my house. I live just a few blocks from the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And so I simply just emailed them and asked if I could do a ride along. And
Fuck yeah.
yeah.
Helicopter ride along?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
And, I shot for this local paper, the Easy Reader in the South Bay. And I kind of dropped their name and said, hey, I shoot for the Easy Reader and I'd love to come and document this mock rescue that you're doing. And they said, okay, let us run it up the chain and we'll get back to you. And sure enough, the next day they I said, yeah, you're all set. Just come and join us. Be at the hangar at this time. And so I did. Got all my gear together, and they put me in a flight suit.
Shit.
And I started to panic, And they had a meeting. So I forget how many. Maybe there was 5 people on the crew. I forget what the exact number was, but it's the pilot and the rest of the flight crew. And they started doing the rundown. Okay, this is what we're going to do. Here's our goal. If something goes wrong and we have to ditch the plane or ditch the helicopter, this is how it's going to go down. I'm going to lower it down. The first thing that's going to happen is it's going to flip over because the rotor is extremely heavy. And so we're going to roll and we're going to start sinking underwater. You'll be underwater upside down.
They're like telling you all this shit.
They're telling me this.
They're all trained for it. And you're like,
yeah,
what the fuck are you talking about?
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, what the fuck did I sign up for here? And so they said, okay, what you have to do is you have to first familiarize yourself with your surroundings and then imagine it upside down. And then these windows here, they have charges on them, blast charges. So you have to pull this lever and that will create a little explosion and push the window out against the pressure of the water.
Unreal.
And I'm like, my eyes are like super wide. And the diver, he's watching me, and he's like, don't worry, I'll pull those levers way before you even think about it. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. So that didn't happen, thank God. And we went up and they took me around. We flew in a really relatively short period of time. We flew over downtown LA, down to Long Beach, up around Palos Verdes, and then up to Hermosa Beach.
Wow.
And that's where they did the mock rescue. And so another cool thing, when we were in that flight path, over Long Beach, they got a radio transmission that an F-16 was going to be in the air in a short period of time. And as soon as they got that transmission, this always left an impression on me. They just turned the helicopter and got out of that airspace like that.
They're just like,
yeah, they're like, wow, we don't want to be in any airspace close to an F-16. They're traveling, Mach 1 or 2 or whatever it is that they do. So we go to Hermosa. I shoot everything from inside the airplane, which was really exciting. And then they did the reverse, and I was on the beach, and I swam out, put my fins on, put my camera in a water housing, and swam out. And so I got the diver jumping in when I was in the helicopter, and then got him coming down from the reverse angle, and the amount of air that was coming down from those rotors, and that with the helicopter so low over the water, I mean, I couldn't breathe. I was not prepared for that. No one told me to expect that.
Wow.
And so I couldn't see. I was shooting blindly, and I couldn't. I was shooting as much as I could, and I couldn't breathe because there was so much water in the air that I basically just started kicking backwards and trying getting out of that ring, that these rotors were causing. And I finally got out, and the photos came out great. So I was really excited about that. But that was an experience, a real experience. Yeah.
And you also, I remember telling me when you got to do Mavericks. Tell me about Mavericks. Mavericks is great too. Again, a total adventure. I'm a surfer. I'm not a big wave surfer, but I love surfing. I love everything about surfing. Big wave surfing is a completely different animal. I don't know how these guys are doing, and women are doing it. Mavericks it's up in Half Moon Bay, up just south of San Francisco. And it comes out of like a couple of 100 feet of water. I think it's like 150 feet in the channel. And then there's a big rock shelf that I believe is about 25 feet deep, 30 feet deep. And so when all that water, when a huge swell comes and hits that rock shelf, it rears up it can get up to 60, 70 feet. And I've always wanted to photograph it. So, and there's a whole thing with getting on a boat and knowing someone and the logistics of watching the swell and seeing when the best day is going to be. So it's a little bit of jockeying, and logistics are difficult, and you want to be there. I want to be there on the biggest day, the best day. Mm-hmm. And I live down in Los Angeles. So, scheduling my flight, getting up there, getting on a boat. It's all, it's a lot. So you did this just for fun.
I did it just for fun.
You're like, I'm gonna go
Oh, yeah.
shoot the biggest waves on the West Coast for fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was fun for me. And just going out through the channel, because when it's that big, I mean, the day that we went out, it was breaking 50, 60 feet. And there was one set that cleared the whole channel. You know, there's about 30 boats sitting in the channel and jet skis, and there's a spotter up on the cliff. And you can hear it on all the radios, you know, and they're calling out the sets, you know, swing wide's coming, you know, watch out. And so a set was coming that was going to clear out the channel, and everyone just like pure panic, like, and the boats are close together, you know, we're all sitting in a pack.
Yeah.
And everyone all at once just gets on the throttle and just barrels their way out of this gigantic mountain that's coming right at. Every wave looks like it's going to break on your head.
Yeah.
When you first get there, your first time, you're like, oh my, is this safe to sit in this spot? You know, because these mountains of water are coming right at you. But this particular wave was bigger than one I've ever seen. I've been there a few times. And everyone, just the whole field of boats just moved, and it created so much white water in that zone from everyone moving at one time. Everyone's heart's pounding, you know, and then everyone's kind of sitting in the new spot waiting for safety, you know, like, is another wave like that going to come? Can we inch our way back to the channel, you know? But that was exciting. And just getting out into going from the marina out to the break is really difficult too, because what happens is on a low tide, you have to go out at high tide, because the channel, normally the channel's, you know, deep, and there's safety in deep water and those big swells. But on a swell that big, on low tide, the channel closes out. And so it's really difficult to navigate through that safely. So you kind of have to be with someone that's done it before. And luckily we had good boat captains, really good boat captains, and a couple of the guys that surfed that break, and they'd done it before, and they helped us navigate through it. But I had my wetsuit on the whole time, just in case we had to bail.
And how big are those waves?
The ones out at the actual spot, they range, you know, anywhere from 25 to 70 feet.
Wow.
And the ones in the channel, you know, they could roll your boat if you're not paying attention, if you go the wrong way. We lost a board bag coming in at the end of the day, and we had to turn around in, you know, some pretty big waves in the channel to go get it. And it was harebrained, you know, we were panicked.
Yeah.
But exciting. I want to go back. Like I watch the swell between December and February, March is when that comes alive.
Mm-hmm.
There was just one recently, but I was back in New York and I couldn't make it, so I got my eye on it. That and Nazaré. There's one in Portugal that I'm sure you've heard of, but that's where the records are being broken for. I think someone just broke the record. It was 86 feet, and I think the new record now is 115 feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I've never heard of it. I'm a landlubber, Ken. I'm a landlubber. That's awesome. That's scary as shit and awesome. But it's like, to do what you love, you know, you go into the fire if you need to.
Yeah, it makes me feel alive, you know.
Yeah.
I love the adrenaline rush. I love capturing the images so that I can go back and look at them myself and share them with people, you know. And even though I go and shoot those places on my own dime, you know, something always comes of it. I feel like there's always something that happens.
You make a connection, you network.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so funny because, like, it's awesome because the rush is what drives you, isn't it?
Yeah.
The rush is what drives you. That's why I tell people, like, how can you do stand-up comedy? It's like, I love it. There's a huge rush that I get, especially when a joke lands or I'm standing in front of 100 people, just me and a microphone, but there's a rush to it. It's addicting.
Exactly.
It's almost like a drug.
Yeah. It really is.
I think it's better than a drug.
I would agree.
I've tried them all.
Because you're hyper focused. You know.
Yeah.
Drugs. You know, there's a fall off. You know, where you're disoriented. You don't know your name sometimes.
Yeah.
But with the adrenaline rush, it's like, man, you feel superhuman. You know.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Makes your heart beat faster.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I also saw on your website that you have shot multiple award shows, multiple. Tell me about the award shows that you have shot. But most notably, honestly, I'm just here. I want to ask you, you shot the Oscars, Ken.
Yeah.
Tell me about shooting the Oscars.
I've shot the Oscars a few times. One of my biggest clients and best clients is JLC, Joe Louis company. And they brought me on to shoot. They build the red carpet environment. Mm-hmm. And so they bring me on to document their builds, which in turn I get to shoot, everything. I show up, I get them building, I get the carpet empty, and then I get the carpet full, and full of celebrities. And that's a lot of fun. It's very intense, in a different way, from the other stuff. And you get to see the entertainment world in a different light. But it's exciting, you see all these, all the people that you on the big screen, that you've been watching your whole life, tell stories, and I have my favorites, and
who's your favorite?
I always liked DiCaprio. I thought he was, good. I always liked his confidence on camera. Who's the other guy that was in, No Country for Old Men? He played the villain. He was fantastic.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Yeah, I got to see him on the carpet. And, another cool thing, too, is to get the vibe and the energy of different celebrities. Mm-hmm. Some of them are, they don't want to have anything to do with you. And they kind of just move quickly through the crowd. Others understand that they're there to be photographed, and they're willing to pose and have a little bit of conversation, and it's very nice. Mm-hmm. A lot of different energy going on at one time at any given moment. And so that's tough to navigate. That one was difficult for me because I tend to be sensitive to that stuff,
You're
empathetic, which actually, helps in my shooting and helps in my business. But it can be really difficult, very tiring, after a shoot, because I'm kind of feeling everything. So I've had to learn to navigate that in those situations, but it's been a lot of fun, mm-hmm. I've been lucky again to have access to those events. Mm-hmm. And the Oscars is, I feel like, top of the food chain, but I've done the Grammys and a bunch of the other award shows, and mm-hmm. Deadwood red carpet, the opening, a lot of movie openings, which is cool.
Nice.
So yeah.
Plenty of award shows that you shot.
Lots.
The Grammys, the Oscars, the BET Awards.
Yes.
All that I read. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I also saw that you have just probably celebrity clients as well. Tell me about that. I saw a couple people pop up on your website recently.
Honestly, they're not my clients. Again, I'm
working through another.
Yeah, I was given access to them through my client, JLC.
Gotcha.
And so I literally just get a few minutes with them at the events, and so I have to work my magic and give myself a portrait session.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's great.
So I wanted to also talk to you about something that you disclosed to me a couple of years ago, was that you had something happened. I remember you telling me something happened within the people in your neighborhood, and all the guys in your neighborhood decided you would go get checked out. If I remember correctly, you can just tell the story, but if I remember correctly, somebody passed away in your neighborhood and he was kind of young.
Yes. Yeah. We had there was a cafe right up the street from my house, and there was a gentleman that owned it, him and his family, great people. His name was Cliff, and I didn't know him very well, but we had a lot of mutual friends, and he wound up having a heart attack at the age of 40 and passed away, unfortunately. He had the name of the restaurant was Four Daughters, and he did have 4 young, beautiful daughters. I think at the time they were all maybe close to the age of 10, so they were young. Mm-hmm. And his wife, and they were on vacation, And actually, I was on vacation with some friends, and when we heard the news, and my friends were close to him, and they were pretty devastated and couldn't believe it. 40 years old, and so we all, started to go and get checked out at the cardiologist, and we all kind of used the same guy. One of us, whoever went first, kind of passed the same guy along to us, and so they came back, had a clean bill of health, and then I went. And I was, I've always been in decent shape and try to take care of myself, get to the gym, and I surf, and I do a lot of physical athletic things. I thought I was going to go in there and just, hear the same thing. Oh, you're good.
You're like, I'm good.
Yeah. But there's a level of definitely, some fear there too. But so they did a CT scan, and it turned out that I was in the 90th percentile to have an early fatal heart attack. And that blew my mind. I was not prepared to hear that news. I was in shock, really. And so I was walking out of that office thinking, like, what does this mean? The doctor, he was trying not to be too, he was like, oh, this is a good thing that you're here, like I think I was 41 at the time or 42. And he said, your arteries are basically, that of a 60-year-old at this point. And so what we need to do now is we need to slow that process down so that you can catch up. And I'm like, okay, well, that kind of makes sense, but it's still kind of a, bummer news to get. So they put me on, and that was another bummer, having to go on all the medications and all those things. And in the early stages, I was overwhelmed. And then the more you read and the further you go, you kind of get hold of it and take control of it yourself, and learn to do some things naturally, and just kind of get it balanced out.
It's good that you get ahead of problems with your health. Period. Absolutely.
Yeah, preventative is the key.
Is that the only thing? Did you only have a CT scan? Did you have a stress test? Did you have a Holter monitor? Anything like that?
I don't remember a Holter monitor, but I definitely had a stress test.
Mm-hmm.
Once they did the CT scan, and they saw the calcification, they started doing a bunch of tests. Mm-hmm. I was doing the whole hamster wheel thing, and I had a bunch of electrodes hooked up to me, and and that's been about 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
And then I remember you telling me that they put you on medication after that. Tell me about the medication. Are you still taking that medication too?
I am. They've switched it. Atorvastatin. Is that
atorvastatin?
Atorvastatin. Yeah.
It's Lipitor.
And yes, exactly. It's generic for Lipitor. And then my blood pressure pills, which I can't remember. What are the name of my blood pressure pills? I don't remember, but basically blood pressure and the blocker, or the whatever it's called.
Beta blocker?
Oh, beta blocker. Yeah,
beta blocker is probably your blood pressure pill.
That's the blood pressure pill.
Yeah,
yes.
You probably take metropolol or something like that.
I'm not sure. I would know it if I heard it.
Amiodarone. Well, amiodarone is not technically.
I think it starts with an A.
But amiodarone, I don't remember exactly off the top of my head.
Yeah. But anyway, all the and that baby aspirin
yes.
and all that stuff,
Thin the blood.
Yeah, and stay away from red meat, don't eat it too much, and all those things, and try to eat a lot of greens.
Now, didn't you tell me though you were literally taking injections though for this for a while, right?
Was I taking injections?
I thought when I met you, you were telling me that every day you had to take like a shot in your belly or something like that.
You're right. I did. I had to give myself a needle.
You don't remember?
What was that for?
It's probably to thin your blood.
Yeah, maybe. But when they told me this, I was like, wow, what the heck is going on here?
Well, I'm guessing they had you on like Lovenox or something like that. Just something to thin your blood. But like so does aspirin as well.
Yeah. I don't recall, but I remember thinking, man, is this what I really have to do? Like give myself a needle every day or whenever it was?
I remember you telling me this because you were telling me how expensive it was.
Yes.
That's, kind of what I'm getting at.
It was $250 per needle.
Yeah.
So it must not have been every day. It must have been something else. But I couldn't afford that too. I mean, who can afford that? So I went through, I think it's CVS has a program where you can get, it wound up being $5 a shot or something like that.
Yeah.
That was crazy. And the way they tell you, like, well, you're gonna have to take the shot every day, and it's $250 per needle, and I'm, my eyes are bugging out of my head, like, what? And then they say, but there's a program, and da 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 da, and you can do this, and it's heavy.
It's fucked up.
It's heavy being in that position, and you just feel very kind of helpless. And hopeless.
It's weird because you think you're the only one that it's happening to.
That's the way it feels.
It feels that way.
Yeah.
But realistically, so for me, I'll tell you about my family history. I have a grandfather who died at the age of 40 of a heart attack. I have another grandfather that lived to the age of 90. So it's like you really don't know. And genetics is almost anything. Do you know if you have do you have any family members that have a history of heart disease that you know of?
My mom has a large family. I know my uncle he just had some heart issues, and I think he had surgery, but not so much. But on my dad's side, all the men have the same thing that I do. They never had CT scans, so they didn't kind of get that inside picture which makes me wonder if they do have it, but they're kind of existing with it, and they're on the blood pressure and the Lipitor generics, So, and I remember my grandfather was before he passed away. So it does run in my family on my father's side.
High cholesterol is what you would take Lipitor for.
Sure. Yeah.
And like for me, I've had high cholesterol. I mean, not high cholesterol, but I've had like high triglycerides almost all my life. Amazingly enough, I could tell you, I changed my diet
huge
a couple of years ago, and I changed my diet and I started having oatmeal almost every day.
Yeah.
And my cholesterol crashed.
Yeah.
It crashed. It brought it all the way down. There's actually a lot of studies that say that oatmeal will bring your cholesterol down.
Yeah, it's a heart healthy food
for sure. But I think there is a lot of people who don't make the lifestyle changes or commit to taking their medications and things like that. And that is like really a big problem in this country, is that there's not a lot of health education out there.
There's not. I'm fortunate, and my mom was very health conscious when I was young in our household, so I learned a lot. I hated it as a kid growing up because we weren't allowed to have sugar. We were eating liver and onions for dinner, and there always had to be greens, and you had to have a salad, and as a kid, I just wanted to grub on sugar and chocolate. But I'm so fortunate and I'm so grateful now to have that knowledge kind of baked in, so that when I do, I'm not always eating, 100% properly all the time, but I know how to eat properly. And it's always shocking to me to hear people talk about eating healthy, and when realistically they're not eating healthy. No. They're buying what these advertising agencies are putting out there as healthy, but they're not. Exactly. And all you got to do is turn the package around and read the ingredients, and right in 2 seconds I can turn it over and go, oh, this is garbage. But the front looks like it's organic, and and you're going to live an extra 200 years if you eat the product, Yeah. But it's just not the case.
There's a lot of health bullshit out there.
A ton.
I mean, whether it's like losing weight bullshit. I saw something last week that was like literally something you put in your belly button. It's like external. And you're like, I lost all this weight from this penny I put in my belly button. And I'm like, and there are fucking people out there like buying into this bullshit. Like that's what's fucking unreal about healthcare in America is there's so much fucking bullshit, whether it's the healthcare system or just the false advertising. I mean, everybody's trying to make a buck off your health.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's sad.
It is sad.
It's, you know, there's been times where I just think to myself, man, I really have just given up on our healthcare system. You know, I just feel defeated, you know, and I mean, this is the United States, you know, you think that we'd have a handle on it in some way.
Oh, hell no, we don't.
You know, it's almost worse, you know, than, you know, it's like, man, for what you're paying for insurance.
And I want to know how much you pay because I know you buy your own. I mean, you must because you work for yourself, right?
Yes. $700 a month. So
$700. So on average, the average American spends about $10K a year on their health insurance.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And
sorry, I'm like going off.
No, that's okay. And when something goes wrong, the amount of energy that you have to put towards getting that money back to get the you know, things paid for, and so you don't have to think about the money on top of thinking about your health when there is an issue. You know, they make it extremely difficult to cash in on any of those things. You know,
there's a lot of cash. It's all a fucking scam.
It's a scam. So it's hard for me to want to pay into a fraudulent system. You know, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand why they can't change that. You know, there's the powers that be. I guess
it's all about the money.
Yeah,
it's all about the money. Like I personally, you know, and I don't know the total economics about this. I don't. And I admit that.
Sure.
But we don't need health insurance companies at all. At all. And I could show you the billions of dollars that go to like the CEO or the executive boards or the fucking investors that are literally leeching onto our healthcare system. It's disgusting.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's sad and depressing.
Yeah.
For sure.
$700 a month you pay for your personal health insurance.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's all we're really working for, it feels like. And even people that are working for their retirements, that's what they're working for. They're working for their health insurance. Right. They're like, I have a guy I work with. He's great. He's one of the physical therapists. He lives down by, actually he lives down in Long Beach technically, but he was telling me, he's like, I'm just waiting to get my 20 here so they'll pay for my health insurance. That's it.
Yeah, I've heard that many times.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
But obviously healthcare is something that needs to be fixed. And there's just a lot of people profiting off of it unnecessarily, in my opinion. But
I share that opinion, you know, and it seems to be the way of the world and the way of things these days, you know, and I don't obviously don't have the answers, but I hope someone does, and I hope it changes for the better, you know, sooner rather than later.
You know, the funny thing is, it's like a big debate right now is universal healthcare.
Right.
And it actually hasn't been on the table in like 5 or 6 years, you know, in the U.S. Senate. It hasn't been brought to the table. But a lot of people, I read a Gallup poll just like last week that like 57% of Americans want to go with universal healthcare.
Yeah.
My big thing is I feel like it'll cut out a lot of corruption, a lot of waste, and it could work. But I don't really quite understand the big fight with it because I think it would improve healthcare. I think people think that we're just going to automatically give every service to the poor. I think people that work feel like, you know, I don't want to pay for someone else's healthcare. I don't want, like, you know, I mean, obviously I work with transplant patients. I feel like if we give people a little health education in primary care, just primary care,
yeah,
it would significantly improve like life expectancy in this country. The average American lives, I think, I don't remember, maybe 78.
I think it's 70, yeah, in the 70s.
And every European country is like 82, 83. They're crushing us in healthcare.
Wow.
They're crushing us.
No kidding.
I mean, a lot of people say that it's not working over there. Haven't seen a whole lot of evidence of that.
Yeah.
But I think it's the kind of thing we don't really know until we try. But I mean, I think there could be a tiered system where it could work. I mean, I think healthcare in general, it could grow. It could create jobs. There's lots of moving pieces here, but this is my own personal opinion, and I just feel like it could work if we tried it. And people shouldn't have to pay $700 a month for fucking health insurance.
I tend to agree with you, being one of those
Yeah.
people, and that's how I think. Like, let's
You
just
probably got a deal on that too.
yeah, they make it seem like, oh, this is a great deal. But like, that's what I think, is like, can't we just try something else? This is obviously isn't working and everyone knows it, it's a huge conversation. And there are people that need help,
Yeah.
you can't just say like, I don't want to pay for someone else's. Like, people do. There's elderly people. There's people that just, mentally they just cannot care for themselves.
Yeah.
And so those people, do they just go away? Like what happens, So it's just the thing. I know people, the whole debate is like, well, then it becomes like a, what's the word? Like a socialist, environment, but there has to be a little bit of that.
Our entire public school system is socialized.
It's community.
It's community.
So when you live in a community, people help each other.
Exactly.
You can't just all go into your space and expect everyone to fend for themselves. It takes a community to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my perspective. But you get people on very extreme sides of that want to argue those points,
Well, there's a ton of money that's wasted in healthcare. Like the tax benefits going to these nonprofit healthcare hospitals is total bullshit.
Right.
They're all for profit. They reinvest in the hospital and they don't pay the employees on top of that.
Right.
There's so much money wasted in healthcare, and they pay the healthcare CEOs like, millions and millions of dollars, and other people on the executive boards, they're paying them millions and millions of dollars. I mean, in my opinion, I don't think there's a human being living in this country that needs more than $1 million a year. How could you not live on $1 million a year?
Exactly.
What the fuck are you eating? What kind of car are you driving?
Right.
Like, I just feel like in healthcare, and I'm not talking about other industries, just healthcare alone.
Yeah.
Like there has to be like caps on like what these people make. So it either goes back into the system, it goes back into the patients. I mean, I'll tell you right now as a nurse, every nurse in this country is fighting over this thing called a bladder scanner. And they share it. Like we have one on our unit, but like we share it for 24 beds. It's realistic to do that. But sometimes we're sharing it with other units. And I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, I could talk about executive compensation, healthcare. I could talk about the tax breaks in healthcare. I could talk about how big pharma fucks Americans every day just trying to get like simple medications.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But I really believe, if you give the poor like primary care, just a little bit of primary care, a little health education, and the cheap. Like I take a blood pressure pill. I take benazepril. It's an ACE inhibitor.
Right.
It keeps my blood pressure from being 130, brings it down to the 120s.
Right.
And that makes a difference.
Sure.
Most doctors will tell you that, I mean, that's what the doctors are trying to do now. They want to medicate people for systolic blood pressure of 130 or above.
Right.
I started having my, issues a couple years ago. It started with a little bit of hypertension, like a little bit of high blood pressure. But I do feel like if you just a little bit, like, and the money's there,
right?
The money's there, like the money that goes to health insurance companies.
There's
like
tons.
I mean, and health insurance. I mean, if you look like the health insurance profits, it's just going up and up. It's going like this, and our health is going down, 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 and so it just makes sense.
Makes sense to me too. Absolutely. And that's the thing too. Like you ever go like to a doctor and you say, when I didn't have insurance, they say, well, here's the cost with insurance. And it's, we'll say $1,200, but if you're going to pay out of pocket, it's $500,
Mm-hmm.
So those costs are being inflated so much. And it's all a big negotiation,
well, it's hospitals that are overcharging insurance companies, and then insurance companies kind of overcharging you.
They're hedging.
It's everybody. It's like everybody scamming everybody, and it's just ridiculous.
It is.
And it's just so annoying because it's like the one thing we should get right in this country.
People are sick and dying.
I mean, like that's insane. It's like we look like shit if you look at the statistics. We don't live as long as other countries. It's mostly minorities that are passing away. It's poor people. I mean, but like I said, just a little bit would help.
Yeah.
I'll tell you my story because, you're sharing yours. I'll tell you mine. I went in, a couple weeks ago. Started having a little numbness in this left bicep. So
Scary.
I decided to get checked out, and I had my stress test, and right now I'm wearing my Holter monitor right here.
Oh, wow.
Right here. And yeah, I'm going to wear it for a week, and they're going to just monitor it. I'm not really having the symptoms that I had before.
Yeah.
But I'm going through the process of like, what happens when of course, when I go into the office, like by far, I'm the youngest person there by 20 years.
Right.
But I had the symptoms. I had an event that triggered, hey, I need to go get checked out. I'm able to do that. I have a PPO insurance, and I can go wherever I want. I don't need to go to my primary care doctor and ask him to go get a consultation with another doctor, a cardiologist. So I went right to the cardiologist. We've done the stress test. I've done the Holter monitor. I'm going to get an echocardiogram. I'm probably not going to get a CT. I was a little confused why your cardiologist went direct for the CT. But I mean, I'm sure different doctors have different practices, but and just seeing though, but it's like, okay, the woman who put my Holter monitor on today, she said, I don't want you to get charged twice. She's like, you actually weren't supposed to come in today. You're going to get one in the mail. And she was like, but don't worry. Like, you can just return the one in the mail. Just, I don't want you to get charged twice. And I'm sitting here thinking, I better not get charged at all because I have health insurance. And I am paying a ton of money. I actually pay more money for a PPO so I can go wherever the hell I want.
Right.
And that's the advantage of it. But I feel like, people are just spending way too much. And especially like I said, I have a family history. I need to watch myself. I need to know. This is kind of why I'm doing all this. I need to know am I already having heart issues? Am I going to have them? I don't know.
Right.
But it's really humbling to go into those offices and see like 60-year-old people, 70-year-old people.
Oh, man.
And it's like kind of just the beginning because once you get older, you're going to start going to the doctor a lot more.
Right.
I also already have arthritis, man. I have arthritis in my hips.
Oh, man.
I mean, it doesn't hurt, but like I was having a little hip pain. And so I had to get that checked out. And like, they got it back and you have like mild arthritis in your hips. And I'm like, it's just the beginning.
Yeah,
this
no one wants to hear that. Just the
beginning.
Especially you're a young guy, man.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Mild arthritis.
Wow.
Mild. But you can knowing things about your body can help you make better choices moving forward.
100%. Absolutely.
I already know. Like, I just need to build up my leg muscles so my hips don't carry the burden as much. That's it. Stay active. Stay moving.
Just get ahead of it.
Eat right.
Yeah.
Keep your body weight down.
That's huge, man. Eating right is so imperative,
I mean, and that's the problem is that you can't drive 1 mile in this country without seeing those fucking golden arches, can you? You cannot.
They're everywhere.
Fuck McDonald's, man. Holy shit. It's the worst fucking company in America. They give you shitty food. They pay their employees like shit. It's just shit. McDonald's equals shit.
And it used to be cheap. It's not cheap anymore.
Cheap. I know.
Man, it's expensive.
It is expensive. But that's the thing. I don't know. I went to the UK over the summer and I loved it. It was just the one thing that I noticed about the UK, it was not commercialized in the way that our country is. Like I remember growing up in New York and going to my grandparents' house in upstate New York and just seeing that McDonald's billboard for miles on end. It would advertise a McDonald's for 65 miles.
Burning it in your brain.
They're burning it in your brain. You're driving. We're driving up the highway in upstate New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, oh, and of course I'm the one, little old me, the little kid. It's like, I want to go to McDonald's. Really, the reason why I wanted to go to McDonald's was the playground, honestly. Yeah. But then you start eating the food and, when you eat certain types of food, you release certain types of,
get hooked
neurotransmitters and like, ooh, that dopamine, and serotonin in your brain and you get hooked on it. But we all know that this food is complete shit.
Yeah.
But we just keep, letting them sponsor this and sponsor that, throwing those golden arches in our face.
That's what bugs
Ray Kroc
me,
was full of shit.
And I mean, I have a major sweet tooth and, I equate that to some things, in my childhood, but that's who you go into any store and the candy is all down on like below chest level for a regular adult. It's all at the kid level, you know. That's who they're marketing to, you know. The sugar industry is just, I mean, talk about a drug, man.
Yeah.
Addictive drug.
Oh, totally.
Sugar is
I mean, your body needs sugar. It does, but not
not that kind.
Like the sugar in a diet, like not a Diet Coke, but a regular Coke. There's something like 56 grams of sugar. I mean, have you ever seen 56 grams of sugar like laying in front of you?
Yeah.
Next time I do one of these, I'm gonna like bring a scale. I'm gonna weigh out 56 grams of sugar so people could see it's an obscene amount of sugar.
I watched a movie that helped me to get a hold of my, sweet tooth, and it's called That Sugar Film. Mm-hmm. And I think he's Australian or a Kiwi guy, but he basically does a bunch of he films himself going through those experiments, and that's what he did. He had he said this meal is equivalent to this much sugar, and it's like you're like, whoa, like your mind's blown.
Yeah.
And he goes through this process where he stops eating sugar, and you see that he's going through withdrawals. Like he's super lethargic. He has headaches, all from trying to get off of sugar. And then when he finally does, he feels like a new person. He's got more energy, and all these things. And you're like watching this on camera, and you're like, wow, like I'm gonna do that,
Yeah.
And I did, and I went through exactly what he did, and I felt exactly how he did at the end of the film, like rejuvenated and like way better.
Yeah.
So there's something to it for sure.
Yeah, we are kind of getting close to the time here. But that's the thing is like we could talk about our health all day long. And I think that just especially like, heart disease is like just, rampant in this country.
The silent killer.
Silent killer. I work on a heart unit. I mean, I see people every day and they all have the same three things. They have hypertension, hyperlipidemia, high cholesterol. So hypertension, hypertension's high blood pressure. Hyperlipidemia is high cholesterol, and coronary artery disease. And that is just clogged up arteries. Yeah. That's it. And a lot of people who consume a lot of sugar end up in that, people, diabetics and stuff like that, they end up with heart disease, and it's a result of their high blood sugars and stuff like that. But that's the thing, is like, it starts with what you eat. It starts with that.
Absolutely.
A little bit of, it's what you're putting in your body.
Yep.
I mean, smoking doesn't help either.
No.
But I feel like if you get people's diets in control, that's at least you're doing one thing.
Yeah, that'd be huge. Like you said, it all starts with what goes in your mouth,
Yeah. Want to thank my buddy Ken Pagliaro for coming in here today and talking to me about his photography and his health. You can check Ken out online at kenpagliaro.com. He's available. He does it all, and his photography is phenomenal. In the post, you'll see some of his wonderful photography. But if you go to his website, his Instagram, you're going to see some really beautiful shots.
Oh, thanks, Shaun.
Ken, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully we'll have you on again, man.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right.